Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the Engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live, headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay, every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Art Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.
Hey, this is Tyler.
And this is KC.
And you're listening to
The Element Podcast.
What's happening, all my woods people? We are sitting in the rain in a tunnel in Illinois, not Iowa. I don't even know what town this is. I can't pronounce the name of the closest town.
I'm not sure either.
Yeah.
You're local.
I don't even have a good guess. I knew Kaskaskia Road, but that
Yeah,
was
he
it.
knew how to say some unpronounceable word.
It's like chili cough.
Yeah.
So we're sitting here with Jake Hofer. Jake, say hi.
What's up?
We're sitting here with Anthony Warren.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And we're sitting here with not Ben O'Brien.
How you doing?
That's Sean O'Brien. You guys might have heard him on the podcast already. Anthony and Sean are military dudes. They happen to be good friends of ours, especially Anthony. We're getting to know Sean this trip, and both the guys are just class acts, as well as Jake. What kind of boots are those, Jake?
Zamberlins.
You like them?
Yeah, I have no complaints. I have nothing to compare them to either. This is the first nice pair.
Didn't they write a
leather
song
boots.
about them? Whoa, Black Betty, Zamberland. Isn't that it? Is that the one?
You
Weren't you singing that earlier?
Yeah,
Yeah. Come on, give us a rap real quick, Anthony.
I can't do it.
Oh,
You
come
can't?
on.
Oh, dude. He's
Under
freezing
pressure.
up. This is stage fright at its finest.
It is, man.
Man, you've been in like some stressful situations before, and you can't do this?
I can't.
What if I hit you a beat?
Oh, goodness.
Come on, Summer
gracious.
Springs.
Are you a
Yeah.
rapper?
Yeah.
You a freestyler?
He is.
Yo.
His wife thinks
Check out the whitetails up on the hill.
Yeah.
Eating on the beans.
Yeah, Jake
Keeping
dropped his
it
pill.
real.
Yeah. It's good stuff,
my
man.
goodness.
We're going to do a whitetail rap album featuring Jake Hofer from Exodus
that'll
and
get
many
one
others coming out in 2021. So y'all be looking for that. Didn't Bone Collector do an album one day?
I don't know. Did
1
they?
year?
Joe
I think they
Exotic did an album.
Did he?
Yeah.
Bone Collector had a pretty good song called Call the Hogs or something, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Red Akins
Yeah.
and Dallas Davidson, I think, did it.
Yeah. Yep. Guys that are in with Realtree, I guess.
That's cool.
Yeah. So
It's not us.
That's not us. No, it isn't. Anyway, we have been scouting the last couple days. Anthony and Sean and KC and I scouted Kentucky. We scouted Tennessee. And then we moved on up here about midday today to Illinois and met Jake and burned the rubber and saw a lot of good sign, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
It was pretty good.
what usually happens is we will we'll find, we'll look at map dots and that kind of thing, and then we'll go in there and the sign will be very subpar, and it's like, do we put it here? Do we not? Should we wait? And then we go somewhere else, and it's the same way. And I'm saying that because we've done a lot of map scouts in Texas and in Oklahoma,
South,
in the South. It tends to be tough. And KC, I think you made a point earlier about. I think you were talking to Jake about how it's like when you get up here, the deer are heavy and they make a lot of sign. You know what I mean? They're just big animals, right? It's like Sean eats a lot of food, right? You know what I mean? Like just big dude, you know? So like
I'm a grown boy.
he is. He's a grown boy. So, you know, that's like a very helpful thing, man. And Jake, you had you showed us some pictures earlier of deer that were like field dressing like over 250, right?
Yeah, right around that mark. Yeah.
It's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
I
And
mean, what does that make a deer? I mean, have we decided that makes a deer 300 pounds if he's over 250
knocking on the
field
door.
dress?
Probably
He's got to be
close.
close, doesn't
yeah.
he?
I don't know anyone that wants to weigh a 300 pound.
Yeah.
You know, they shoot one and then like, that's a heavy animal to move just to weigh it.
Dude, you go to Academy and buy a scale and it's going to top out at 300.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like they're just not many deer, at least where we're from, for sure, that are like that. So pretty
there's
impressive.
none.
There's none.
Where we're
No,
from.
there's none right
Yeah.
where we're from, for sure, especially around Austin, which we talked about that today, too. We talked about Austin. That's a cool
We
place.
did. Yeah. There's a
you have
spotted
any-
towhee in that tree over there.
What is it?
Spotted towhee in that tree over there. It's a cool bird. Anyways, if y'all don't part me in a place I can look at deer while we podcast, I got to look at birds. All right. So
Anthony and Sean, speaking of birds, birds like mulberry trees, and those guys do too.
yeah, we were supposed to rendezvous with these guys,
Yeah.
and then they got delayed by a mulberry tree, and we had to sit there for like 20 minutes in the sunshine.
Yeah.
I was mauling them.
Talk about Anthony. Talk about your basketball career.
Yeah.
Because weren't you jumping pretty high earlier to get those mulberries?
Oh, I don't know how. I got like a solid 9 inches.
Your class of
vertical.
08,
Yeah.
Celeste High, right?
Yeah.
And did y'all have a basketball team?
Yeah, we did. I didn't play on it though. It was too much running for me.
Did J-Dub play on it?
Oh yeah, you know he did.
As a star,
Oh yeah.
calculated star.
Yep. I don't think there wasn't much that J-Dub didn't do.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he played golf or tennis, but
Yeah.
everything else he was.
Let me ask you this: when you have been very impressed, you've talked very highly about Kentucky and Tennessee,
Mm-hmm.
and then we came up here today. Where does this now sit in your ranking of where you're going next year and how your priorities?
I mean, if I've got like a quick weekend, I'm probably still going to hunt, you know, like that immediate area, Tennessee, Kentucky. But if I can get off work early and like I see a front's coming through and, you know, granted I have a tag, this place is like, looks pretty legit. Like, I know I was talking to you guys earlier and it's like, when I look at habitat that I've hunted in before, this is up there, you know,
So, a big part of these Map Scout challenges has been Exodus. You guys have been able to get some cameras to us, and we appreciate that a lot, man, because we still run this element thing as whatever is below blue collar. And so, like, to have that support is a big deal. So we appreciate that. And the trail cameras are going to be a big part of this because this Map Scout challenge in particular, because, one of the spots that we ended up finding pretty good deer sign, which was the last one, was like 0.7, like 0.7 of a mile in, wasn't it, or something like that? Didn't you measure it?
0.68.
Yeah, so that's a long ways to just go in and go, I'm just going to hunt here. You know what I mean? Like, it's a good thing to have a trail camera or trail camera info from there that can either tell you, because a big part of hunting public land is eliminating ground, right? So either we're eliminating that spot or we're figuring out that it's good. And as we were leaving, like straight line distance from there was a good buck.
Yeah.
Like not very far.
Straight line, 0.3 of a mile, something like that, probably.
Yeah.
So pretty
We're
awesome.
gonna have a video of them within the week.
I
almost
hope,
guarantee
man.
it.
I hope, man. That would be awesome.
See, that's been the handy thing about having Jake around. He's
Yes.
a fighting Illini. Is that something that everyone would say is, or
he's
just
a leather
people in
neck.
college?
He's a leather
What's that?
neck.
Not really, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're a leather
Well,
neck.
they were Chief Illini and then everything with PC. So now I don't even know what their mascot is now.
It's not even the Illini anymore?
No, it's not Chief Illini anymore. It's
Oh, my goodness.
there was another. Not to get too far off topic, but Bradley University. They were the Braves. And then now they are the Gargoyles. I'm not even kidding.
The Gargoyles.
Dude, my dad played ball at Arkansas State.
They used
they
to be what was that? It was like something Indian
yeah,
related.
the
wasn't
Indians or whatever they were. It's I'm sorry, I'm blanking on it now because this is perplexing. Because for the last several years, they've been the red wolves. Now it's like
That makes sense.
yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
it's crazy, man. That people take such offense to that.
But it's been handy having a Illinois native around. I mean, you had to drive a little ways to get here, but and we appreciate the meetup. But like you have some insights on like just some ideas about what deer do and like how they're going to behave in this type of country that like I just really wouldn't know, you know, because we don't encounter A, terrain, B, like beans and corn and that kind of thing. It's just not a thing that we see around the house, at least, you know. And, you know, we saw a little bit in Tennessee and Kentucky, but that wasn't ag country. This is ag country. Like we're talking about woodlots intermittent in between a whole bunch of ag, right? Like big ag or whatever. And it's just kind of like to hear you say, "Oh yeah, we'll definitely have video of that deer." You know, it's
You
like
will, too.
really,
yeah.
You know, like at home. I mean, for instance, 2 years ago we spotted a big buck for home. You know, I don't know what nobody scored, but you know, a big deer from the road, and tried to set up cameras and hunt that deer, and never saw hide nor hair of that deer ever again.
No,
because he's on the edge of a monotonous giant just bottomland, right? And here, that's different altogether. Like, why do you say that you have such confidence we'll see that deer?
It's only a field away. He was feeding.
Like why? How do you know he's going to make it over there? Like, what if he goes the other way?
It's just a good gut feeling. That's just from a lot of times too, and running a lot of cameras and these.
Yeah.
I mean, this is probably the most like this terrain right here and the way this lays out is almost what I feel most confident in.
Yeah.
As far as just seeing the bucks that you want to see and hopefully shooting them.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I mean that right there, I would not be surprised. Maybe it's 2 weeks.
Okay.
yeah.
But you're for sure gonna get him on camera.
But you soak it a month, he's going to be on there.
What's that?
You soak it a month, he's going to be on there.
Yeah, for sure.
How is this country down here different than where you typically hunt, or is it much different?
For starters, it's a really huge piece of public. Not used to that. There's less residential in the area too, and so that's another thing.
Dirt's different, right?
Dirt's definitely different for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
This is sandy loam and
Yeah, where I'm at with a little better dirt, and where we're back there is like almost rock.
Yeah.
With how dry it is, and obviously, but these fields are a lot larger too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I would
So
say
smaller fields.
that. Yeah, so kind of where I'm at, it's right on the bluffs, and so there's more hardwoods there too.
what does that mean?
Bluffs?
Yeah. I mean,
So-
I know what a bluff is, but like when you say on the bluffs, it's an area in Illinois?
It's like what most people see, like, oh, that's a ravine and that type.
Okay.
So a little
Yeah.
more elevation changes. When
Gotcha.
people think Illinois, they think kind of what you guys drove through probably the majority of the time to get here, where that actually has a lot more terrain features. But this right here, if you get up on the bluff past the river, and then if you find good deer, and it's kind of these types of layouts, and that first stop where we went through there that with all those rubs and the way that laid out, like that's identical to that one little farm where I've talked about before, like 2 years ago where I killed that buck. Like that is the same exact thing. I would be very surprised if you couldn't kill a really solid buck in there in October on the cold front.
The interesting thing about hanging out with you is you're pretty even keeled and you're always very positive. So it's hard to kind of gauge how excited you are about something, you know. But for quite a while, I figured out that you thought that place that we found down there next to the bean field with all those rubs is a pretty stellar spot.
Yeah, for sure. I think, like I said, I'm excited to see what the cameras show there. And like I said, I will not be surprised if there is an absolute hammer in there.
Yeah.
And just the way you look at it, too, like all the different lines and like big ag all the way around it. And then when we drove out, we saw does feeding right on the outside of it. I said, this is definitely doe bedding, and those bucks are cruising through. And then if you look at the swamp right over there, really good buck sign. And I mean, the way that just all correlates, it's almost identical to the layout where I've hunted before, because that has a big lake on it, and it's the same thing where it's real thick and it's impossible to hunt, but he's he's there, and the doe families are in the other pockets. So
you mentioned that you really like the variance in habitat around there, right? Like there's just so many different things going on. And does that mean that there's bucks, or does that mean there's deer?
I think that depends on the type of year, to be completely honest. And here's the thing too: when you're soaking these cameras for so long, like even if he's living primarily a quarter mile away or half mile away, you're going to end up getting him on camera because it pinches down so much. That's where, like, if it was rolling hills, like in Kentucky where you're at, I'm sure there's a lot less defined edge here, and it's like that pinches down real tight, and you're going to get him on camera.
So what is that? So how does that translate to like hunting season? Like, we put some cameras in that pinch type stuff. Do you feel like that's the place to hunt most of the time too?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not the guy to ask on that.
Sure.
Like if it was me and this was 15, 20 minutes from my house, I would be in there on like pretty much every cold front in October, depending if there's a solid buck in there.
Why is that? Why October?
I really like October. I haven't killed a slough in there, but I've had a lot of encounters. So what I'm trying to say is maybe like around the 14th, 15th, 16th, when that first real good cold front rolls in, that's when you start getting maybe a buck that's a mile that way, and that's like where they start to show back up. Maybe you got them in velvet at one or two pictures. Right. You start to see them back, and it's since it's so defined there, like it kind of chokes them down. So that's why I would be there. Just because hopefully got them in velvet.
Yeah. Okay. So on that getting them in velvet thing, that's kind of what we hung cameras for today. We have we hung 3 cameras today, 2 field edge cameras, and 1 that's over like a summertime scrape that's in a hub of trails. So let's kind of talk about those 2 different scenarios there. We made sure and hung cameras. Can I say hung or hanged is probably correct, but hung is like what I like to say.
Hung.
Yeah.
I think hung.
All right.
Yeah.
Good.
Do his best.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah. Good. Our podcast, right? We made sure and hung those cameras pretty far from the roads, so that it was like seclusion is like a big deal. And then like we kind of have the idea at least of facing them to the north, assuming that deer are going to be in the shadier stuff. Is that a real thing?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times, I definitely think their bedding correlates to that. In the summer and early season, you definitely bump more bucks on the north, on the north end of a hill for sure. And how this kind of lays out, the scrape one where a lot of those beds were, those were somewhat on a north side of the back slope. So that makes sense and adds up to that. Yeah.
Is there any secret to like field edge cameras, or is it just like find a decent spot where you see some browse on what they're eating and just put up a camera?
I don't know if there's any. Make sure that whatever's in front of it, whether it's bean, corn, or whatever grass, make sure that you knock it down or angle it to where you're not going to get a blank card. Because that's what I was saying here. Like one of those smaller trees, you're like, you really want to hang it there. And I was like, well, if it was 10 minutes away and I could, it wasn't such a big deal. But we still hung on that tree anyways. But we hung it a little bit lower. But I guess to answer that, just make sure you're not getting false triggers. Like at the end of the day, that's the most frustrating thing.
Yeah, for sure. That's not a fun thing to check the card,
especially in video mode.
Oh yeah,
it's the worst.
It's hard to run through them because you're like, well, maybe I got something.
Yeah, and there's been times in the past when we were running video mode, and like the last second of something, it shows up, and so like from that point on, you're like, I have to check every one of these, And it's bad news.
Not good.
Bad
so,
news. Not
that there's not a lot of tactic to field edge cameras, but it's just that it's just a very effective way to get deer pictures.
Yeah, I'm most excited about that scrape in that bedding.
Okay, so let's move to that one.
Yeah.
So that's a weird thing for us because we don't have summertime scrapes or anything. And that one, we could smell urine. There's not a lot of scraping per se, but the blank spot's still there. And it's in like a wooded area, which usually scrapes are on edges for us a lot of times too.
There's a limb.
Yeah, there was definitely a licking branch and stuff like that. But there's like 5 major trails that kind of come to that and just kind of hub around that. Like, do you find a spot like that very often?
Not like that. That's a really good one.
Yeah.
There's one in particular that comes to mind that's very similar, like on the edge of what I assume is primarily doe bedding, and then like more where I've seen bucks historically bed, and it's kind of similar layout. And that thing will be active all year, and it'll be active depending if there's a high density of deer. That would be one you could end up shooting a solid buck like late December or January. I've even had bucks hitting scrapes then. So that's I'm really excited to get a full year's data off that. I mean, that hopefully will align with my hypothesis, but I feel pretty comfortable that will be the case.
Yeah, that's cool.
So what's a good October cold front for Illinois?
We've had some great weather the last 2 years. I want to say around that 15th or 16th of October, like maybe low 40s.
Okay.
Maybe.
That's a high, or?
That's when you're in the tree, I would say.
Yeah.
Maybe you went from 62 to 40 in a day or something like that.
Okay. Yeah,
62 is still pretty chilly.
Yeah, dude. If we
for us,
oh my goodness, man. Like, it's so different.
October cold front for us, like, it's like, oh man, it's only going to be
90.
78 today, like, or whatever, like that's, it's just, but you're a relative, right? They're still going to do the same kind of stuff, no matter what. A 20-degree temperature change is a 20-degree temperature change.
So, like, would you, if it had been kind of hot or whatever, would you still hunt when it's 67? If it had dropped 15 degrees, do you feel?
I don't know if I'd be hunting back there, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's a really solid buck right along in there that when you check it in August or September that he's going to be there. And
He's
that's a guy
pointing at you like as a threat too. Like you better, you better tell me what's on this camera.
Well, you better tell me, but I hope you're going to kill one. But I'm going to guess that there's going to be probably a 4.5-year-old plus that's in there all the time on those cameras, and that's one that you can kill probably on any evening. There was, I mean.
Did you say any evening?
I love this so much.
I'm telling, like, this exactly mimics one of the farms I've hunted, and I know it sounds crazy, but I'm really excited to see what we find out.
Jake's been passing those 140s going through there before.
I'm not criticizing your positivity. It's just like it's mind blowing to me.
Yeah,
You know?
it's cool. It is.
Well,
really
I
cool.
mean, if you get it, some of those spots too, it was kind of dark and cooler back in there too. So I mean, maybe if you get aggressive, I mean, then once again, like how aggressive are your setups too? And the access here, you can come in from the north side. Is that north, right? Mm-hmm. If you come in from the north side or the south side, you have two different points of access here. I mean,
so wind direction doesn't really matter. You can figure out a way to get there.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, I think that spot, like
you'd walk a long ways, but it would be quick travel.
Yeah.
You know?
What So how do you convert the information that we're going to get from these cameras into like targeting bucks? Would you ever actually set up on that field edge, or would you always? Like, is that scrape the hunting spot you would always go to, or would you come over here like to the big wood lot?
He's a scrape killer, bro.
Yeah, dude.
Whether it's right or wrong, I'd probably be in there.
November 3rd, especially, right?
Yeah.
Is
Just
it
be hanging out?
Like, do you, like, you know, you're talking about October, you'd be really excited about this place. Okay, so we'll say it's like November 7th, the best day of the rut.
I'm gonna have it burnt out by November. That's probably that's what would happen.
Dude, I
if
love
this was
that.
down the road.
That makes me happy too, because like a lot of guys talk about, you know, there's a lot of talk about like playing it safe and not being very aggressive and this kind of thing. And I think that's good in certain instances. You know, you got private land or whatever, you got an opportunity to do that. But at the same time, like it's like, man, sometimes if you want to kill a deer, you got to get up in there with them and just hope for the best. You know, and like I think that plays into even you hunt a lot of private ground, right? So that would probably like if you think about it that way and you're an aggressive hunter, then just go procure more permissions so that if you burn something out, and obviously if there's like a 190, it's a different deal, right? You're probably trying to make a little more calculated risk there, but that's kind of like I feel the same way about hunting. It's like, man, if it's a good day to go hunting, go get in the woods, you know. Don't you know, if you've got the time. For a lot of guys, these guys right here, man, like when Sean gets to deer season, he's probably gonna be working 6 days a week, right? You know, so it's like.
That's what it's seeming like.
Yeah,
now.
Go ahead and get a little bit closer.
Social distancing, we're practicing.
We've got 4 mics and 5 guys. So, and the good thing is these military guys are don't ask, don't tell kind of guys. So.
Oh man,
we're pretty good buddies.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So, the way this whole ag stuff lays out with like the smaller woodlots and then like the connecting lines and stuff, does that make you also feel good about like the aggressive thing? Because what else is there to do? Right? Like you kind of have to go, you have to dive in because if you don't dive in, you're just sitting out here in the truck almost, right?
Yeah. I mean, to be complete, if I was in a big woods or like even where you guys are at, where there's less defined things, I'd be lost. I really think I would struggle for at least 2 years to try to figure out. But like this right here, to me, it's like I don't know if it's because I've grown up hunting it for so long, but to me, it's just like, well, how do you not?
It's kind of plug and play almost, right?
Just go do it because you're gonna end up seeing.
I love that phrase.
Is there anything that we missed, like as far as like a summer truck camera tactic? Like, is there anything, any other aspect, like besides like those really good trails or the field edges that like people should really think about?
I mean, that active scrape, really excited about. I mean, you could on private, you could put some mock scrapes up. I think that's a great way to get inventory.
What time do you start putting mock scrapes up?
Usually too late. This year, my goal is to try to put as many up in the month of July.
Really?
So do you scrape them up, make sure there's a licking branch, and you pee in them? Is that
pretty much follow the Jeff Sturgis playbook or try to find one? I mean, if I find a community scrape, for example, two Decembers ago, when was pulling some cameras, found a huge community scrape, really fired up about it. Then I went and hang a camera in there once again this year, and that's where clean 10.
Toad.
And that's where he ended up hitting that scrape multiple times, and that's where it was already a community scrape. There's already a ton of activity, and I didn't have to really do anything. And it was at a good spot, really easy to check. So I guess there's no, I mean, like, I would only hang it on mock scrapes. I would try to find some other good natural community scrapes and hang them there. But I don't know. I don't know if I have a perfect formula. I'm pretty good at finding big deer, not so good at killing them. So I can tell you to do that.
I don't know. I think that you're a pretty humble guy, but also like, don't take this the wrong way, but you've grown up around some really big deer. So like, dude, the 140s that you're talking about, those are big deer. You know, like for a lot of us, man, like those are giants. You know, and you talk like you pass a few of those.
Dude, and here's the thing: if it's a 143-year-old, it's different than a 10-year-old.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? So
True.
That's a different animal. Okay, but this was a question Casey posed earlier, and I still want to try to kind of, I guess, revamp it and ask. November comes.
Oh yeah.
Even if you burn this spot out, are you still looking for a scrape, or are you looking for just like the first area we walked into that just rubs everywhere? Is that a place where deer are just in that pinch, cruising up and down, what it would be east and west, I guess, on some kind of wind, trying to just nose into doe bedding, pretty much? Is that like something you would hunt, or what would you transition? Or are you still going to hunt a scrape?
Hunting it the first year blind, I think, would be pretty tough. Having cameras there definitely would be helpful to see what that activity is. By that second, third week in November, I mean, here's the thing too. So I always see like the 22nd, 23rd is always really good days, like the 25th, 26th, and that's just the way the cold fronts have fell in the past of October. And then maybe I've killed 2 really good bucks November 3rd and November making scrapes. But here's the thing. The one this past year, he was opening up a scrape. I walked in that morning, there was not a scrape. I saw it was leaves. He opened it up. So he's still opening up scrapes in November. That was not his core area. He lived probably about 1.5 miles south this past year. So there's like November 3rd. It was probably one of those scrapes that he would open up one time, trying to look for a doe, and then he would never revisit that particular scrape.
You think he opens it up and comes back through later that afternoon, and if nothing happens, then he's gone?
I think he would end up coming back, maybe 2. I would say out of that 2-day time frame, that would have been the only opportunity, because I found other scrapes on the farm that just opened up. So then let's say November 2nd, November 3rd, bunch of new scrapes open. And then I would think, I've seen a lot of times where maybe like 7-10 days later, scrapes pick up again. But every farm's a little bit different, and every scrape's a lot different too. So that's where having just a ton of cameras and running them on.
That's an interesting thing to me too. Is you talk about that a lot, how your farms are different. They hunt different than each other. There are different windows that deer are there, and then they just disappear, right?
Right.
That is not what happens around us much. Like we pretty much, like at least where we hunt, and even in several places that we hunt, I feel like if deer are there, they kind of live there. You know what I mean? And they're going to be there. They're not going to transition 1.5 miles necessarily.
That doesn't matter if we're in Texas or the Midwest.
Yeah.
It seems like that's kind of how it is.
It is, man. I thought the same thing, and I was like, pretty much everywhere you and I have hunted, like
except for my property.
Yeah,
but I've only had 1 year under my belt. But on my property that I just purchased, about November 20th, bucks were gone.
We have seen a little bit of late season disappearing kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like overall, I mean, you're still talking about going through almost the whole month of November before anything really changes dramatically.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's a different deal, and it's interesting because like there's not like hunting your property and then hunting mine. There's not like a difference like in strategy or the way deer behave necessarily too much. Like, I mean, and then, or if we went to hunt public, 30, 40, 50 miles from there, we'd still be in the same type of strategy, I think. You know what I mean? Whereas like with Jake, it seems like, well, this farm hunts in late October. After that, I got to go somewhere else, Yeah,
and that might be related to pressure with myself or maybe in the neighbors as well. But there's, I mean, even where I found that shed with that real beefy buck, there was a...
What's his name? You got a name? You deer namer?
It's the worst name ever. River 910, because it looks like he has a point, because he has like a bonus point coming off the main beam on the inside. River 910. It's a garbage name.
This is we have a guy that we know that names bucks pretty similar to that.
Yeah.
He's like, I call this one the Big 8 because it's a Big 8. It's like,
see, I try not to do that, but like if I'm well, here's another thing. I don't really communicate about all the deer that I hunt, a lot of people, but with my dad, for example, I'll say like, well, this is the X Farm 8, and then he's like, okay, so like. Yeah. This is a property that's fill in the blanks, and then so it's a for many years was he like a 9 or is he a 10 point? So he's like, 9-10.
What's cool is
Gotcha.
you like only on the podcast you have to put blanks in there because Casey already knows everywhere you hunt.
I know.
I know all about it, man.
I was talking about the shed. He's like, oh yeah, I already know.
Yeah, Jake was like, if I ever see y'all in Illinois and you didn't tell me, I'm going to be mad. Which is, knowing Jake, that's a big threat.
That's a threat.
That's a big threat.
Yeah, he doesn't get mad.
He doesn't get that.
No.
That's pretty serious for him. But I think it's pretty interesting how you have like a real strategy and then even a real comprehension of like what deer are using scrapes for.
Mm-hmm.
Like, honestly, I don't think that much into it. And it's probably because I haven't hunted them that much. But I just think that they're a thing that deer use for communication. And that's kind of where I leave it. And maybe I need to be thinking a lot more about it. Like, but the whole idea of you saying like they are intentionally making this scrape, using it as like a calling card for a couple days, like that's very intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that from trail camera study or like how did you figure? Like,
A little
dude,
bit.
you're pretty young to know this kind of stuff. You know, like most people we talk to are real old that know that kind of stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I'm always trying to deduct whatever I can. A lot of times it's probably wrong, but running a lot of cameras. I mean, we've had deer since I was we've raised deer since I was 3 years old, so that's a little bit different.
Yeah.
So I kind of grew up in a deer hunting family, so I think that does help. And then also running a bunch of cameras and hunting a lot. But the point about the River 910, for example, hung a mock scrape in December, okay? Most people probably think, like, what are you doing hanging a mock scrape in December? That buck was working that. We had 3 deer over 150. They all were hitting the scrape. Even if you go, I'm going to give a little secret here. If you go on our Instagram page and go back and look at, like, January 17th, and there's 3 stud bucks, that camera was on a mock scrape, and, during from December to that time frame, all of those bucks hit those scrapes at some point.
Man,
You guys should like seriously recruit some of the people who use your cameras to like submit data to you guys on different days and like start logging, like query for like scrapes, trails, and then like log the
cool.
time
Yeah.
and the weather and all that kind of stuff, and just see like how that kind of like correlates like local, regional, and then like across bigger span. That would be like super
with the
cool.
render. That's not that crazy of a thought either. I mean,
Yeah.
we're gonna have people start sending on the waiver that they can be part of a study, but we can go back on the Scout Tech. We could probably work some things through there to actually pull a lot of that data, and maybe hire an intern to go in manually. Like this was on a screen.
Wait, so instead of getting people to submit, you just get them to sign a waiver, and then you can pull the data yourself?
I mean, you can probably scrape anything from the
So
internet.
hold on
That's all I
just
gotta
a
say.
second. Hold on a second.
What if I pee
How
in front of my
safe
camera?
How safe is it for people to have wireless trail cameras?
We have a super secure system.
But you're saying that, like,
Well, I'm just saying that has to be stored in the cloud anywhere. It's not like it's encrypted. It's not encrypted. So
technically, if you weren't such a stand-up guy, you could anyone who has a cellular camera, you could access the pictures.
I'm not answering any questions. Any further
Oh my
questions.
goodness!
Listen, don't take a whiz in front of your cell phone. Like cell cameras. Okay.
It's like the
Worst nightmare.
It's my worst nightmare, dude. I've talked about it several times.
go
on this.
pee in your scrape.
I've done it before. I promise. Me and Casey were hanging the camera. And
Oh,
I
that's
look
our
up,
disclaimer.
I'm peeing in a scrape, and I'm like, when you check that camera, just know if you see me, just go fast.
At least 5 times a year, it's like, hey, my willy is probably on that. So just disregard.
So-
and luckily, these Exodus trail cameras have pretty good pixel count.
Yeah.
Back in the day, we used cheaper trail cameras. You couldn't really see it. It's just a blur.
Yeah.
But
It's
now,
just 1 or 2 pixels.
You got to be careful
You know what
with
I mean?
Exodus.
It's just 1 or 2
Dude,
pixels.
I know.
So anyway, you guys are doing kind of a study, right?
Yeah. So we actually kind of today was the inaugural run here for. We haven't exactly named down, but like
How exciting!
Like the whole point is to run a ton of cameras all across public land across the entire United States and try to find big deer.
Where's the T in that?
I was just wondering that.
What's that? What did I miss?
Whenever a deer is somewhere over here
We've done this several times today.
on like a different side of the road, he is what the road?
Across.
Across.
I see. Okay. All right. Okay.
He's been trying to catch us on like some southern like like
Warsh.
or something like that.
I did. Yeah. I set myself up there.
You did. No, that's all right. All right, go back with your study talk.
Yeah. So anyways, we're deploying cameras, folks like you, to put them out and try to find Groon and Crockett whitetails. I mean, and that's really not the end of it, but basically, we want to show that there's big deer everywhere. Just go out and start hunting, and
Sure.
That's cool.
And we're showing these basically public land card pulls. I mean,
Are you going to release data points, or how are you going to show people that there's big deer everywhere.
This is the start of the project, so I'm sure it's going to evolve. We haven't quite decided. I think some people that would be involved are probably going to want to be anonymous to some level. Like for my, like that's why I drove 4 hours south.
Yeah.
But the anonymity, is that how you say that word?
Yes. Close enough.
So
An enemy.
it's much more like, I don't care if people know I have a big deer on camera. What I don't want them to know is where it is. That's the tough part. And like that's kind of like where you're at with the study. So is you going to do it like kind of by county almost, maybe like the Boone and Crockett system or something like that?
Maybe, like I said, it's going to evolve. But I think the biggest, like, at the end of the day, everyone loves seeing big deer.
Oh, yes.
And there's no question. There's big deer a lot of places.
Yeah.
And the second biggest thing is we just want to show that there's, like, everyone here is, no matter where you live, and it's like, oh, there's no big deer on public land. And then, like, all of a sudden you see some local, share the card pull there and, like, and whether that's good or bad, but we hope to sell more hunting license and get people excited about public land. Like right here, like there's 18,000 acres and there's plenty of deer and probably big bucks for people willing to drive and work for them.
Yeah, and I think that one of the cool things about that is that, this is a good spot, but I don't think it's specific. Yeah, I think you could go to, say you take Illinois, it's kind of a longer, skinny state, divided into 3 quadrants. This is the south, or quadrant would be 4, so triplets. So thirds. Yeah, 3/3, kind of repetitive.
Yeah, that's good.
So
that's not a carpentry measurement, is it?
3 sections.
Thirds. We're more of eighths.
The southern section here, like you could probably assume that, across the board, that there's probably going to be pretty similar outputs or similar amounts of deer on the property, right?
I mean, there was a WMA that you had sent to me and Jake that we didn't end up going to that I think would have similar results, if we went to it. So
and maybe, who knows? We might have to try something like that out. But it'd be interesting to see like the little. What's the word that everybody likes to use because it's fancy sounding?
Intricacies?
Nuances between the WMAs. Like maybe there's more timber or less timber or more ag, and to see if like there is like some coordination between those type things.
Yeah, this isn't going to be a 1-year study or whatever you want to call it. So I mean, we're going to build on it, and that I'm hoping to see. Obviously we talk about historical data, but to see that on a wide span there and see. Everything that we can kind of deduct from it.
So we're looking for booners. Now, clarify a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm a net boon guy.
You're a net boon guy.
Nets are for fish.
I mean, you can't put it in the book.
Yeah, the reason he's a net boon guy is because he's from a part of the country that networks real good.
Yeah. So, okay, if that's the case, that deer has to be killed, right?
Yeah, I mean, all right. I mean, at the end of the day, I understand SEO. I understand a lot of those things too, and I know booner is probably a pretty good buzzword.
Yeah,
we talk about booners in gross, but we don't say gross boon. Because that's just kind of lame.
We only talk about them like hypothetically, anyways.
Because we always talk in gross. So when we say boon, we're just saying gross over 170 kind of deer. You know what I'm saying? So like
typical or
that's that'd be typical. Yeah, for the deer that we're going to get on camera is going to be a non-typical gross boon. Right.
Yeah. So really, we're just talking about deer who are going to gross 170 inches, typical or non-typical, right?
Yeah.
And really, you're just talking about big deer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So like.
But deer that could be considered, like it can't just be like a 157. You know what I mean?
Maybe he'll be a booner next year.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I mean,
just put them on there.
Okay, we're kind of getting into intricacies a little bit, but I'm kind of interested. Like, what about like stud 8s?
Obviously, we would include it, but I don't think we're going to put it in the tally. I mean, and here's the thing: like, we can't actually we can't score these deer.
Sure,
it's a video. I mean, we can give it maybe we'll have a scoring panel. Like, those
that
people.
Would be cool. Yeah.
Those people.
Don't include us because we don't see deer that big.
But everyone knows someone. Like, you send them a picture and they're like, "Oh, that's 167 3/8," and then the deer dies and it's like 166 or 160. And there's some people that are pretty good at that.
Yeah,
there are for sure. There's a lot of guys in Texas actually that are real good at that because those biologists down in the South Texas ranches, they make their living off of guessing
also,
the deer right.
There's a lot of guides that are good at it because they make their money off of if that deer scores 165 or not. It's like, well, actually, no, sorry.
Yeah.
And, well, on that note, there's a lot of lies get told on that stuff, too. It's a 170. Guys go home, like, and, to Highland Park. Sorry, Jack. But they're like, oh, yeah, look at that 170 a shot. It's a 162.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Okay, so here's a question I got for OB and A-Dub over here, both of y'all. Whoever wants to answer this question can separate from the other one if you want. So, so like you guys got to see a lot of country today here too, and you grew up hunting Florida, OB, and Anthony grew up hunting some North Texas stuff. You went on a ridiculous tour last year where you killed all kinds of deer, and so Missouri, Kansas. You've hunted the LBL stuff from Tennessee and Kentucky. Brasker. So what is, like, when you see this stuff, how would you hunt this if you had to get up tomorrow and go hunting now that you've seen it this afternoon? What would you, I would say it's October, okay? What would you do?
Well, I'd probably get, those trails we were seeing all through there off those field edges. I liked the big swamp we saw back in there. A lot of trails running through there, which I didn't see that big scrape with you guys, but I think it was generally
right
in
there.
that vicinity. Because I think daylight at that time, they're definitely going to be cruising through there. I don't think they're going to be pushing does out in those fields quite yet. If it was me.
Sure.
So that's kind of how I would do it. I'm no professional by any means here. So
what is this? Does this look like the best habitat you've seen or the best sign that you've seen?
Habitat, definitely.
Yeah.
We haven't. I saw a lot of good sign in Kentucky, not too far from here, actually, just across the Ohio River last year. But the habitat, I think, is really good. If we definitely put a lot more time in the ground.
So what is your because you're not going to get to be in this area next fall, really, right?
More than likely not.
Yeah. So, and you're going to Georgia, Fort Benning, is that right?
Yes, Fort Benning.
And so you're going to probably hunt some on the base there, I guess, or
probably on the base. See what public lands are.
Are you going to have the time to dedicate to public land hunting, or are you going to try to get some private, or what's your thoughts there?
I'll definitely try to get out there on that public land. The good thing is we'll probably be out there on the base training a lot. So, I mean, even now, whenever we go out to the field, we're doing our training, but I'm always looking. I'm always looking when we're walking around the woods. So I'll definitely look when we're out there, and then I don't know how much time I'll have to really do a lot of boots on the ground scouting, but probably be a lot of Onyx and diving right in.
Well, that's part of what we're doing. And Anthony, you might want to talk about kind of what you're doing next year as well. But we're out here doing this as part of the Map Scout Challenge. I don't know if I even said that or any of us really said that, but this is a video for the Map Scout Challenge, and it is part of the Booner Challenge as well, which is much less definitive than the Map Scout Challenge as to what it actually does.
In typical fashion.
But yeah, so we have, we're trying to show guys that, like, you can go out and see things on your e-scouting, on your map, on your phone or whatever, and put that into work and see the results from that. So, like, for instance, there have been places, like I said earlier, that Casey and I have gone after map scouting, and it's just like, man, it's okay at best. You know what I mean? But we haven't been to Illinois, right? So it's not just Illinois, though. It's Iowa, it's Kansas, it's Oklahoma, it's Nebraska, all those plain states, right? And then Midwest, Missouri, Ohio. Like, these are places that big deer inhabit, and they make big sign, and you can go and at least get on deer, right? And then, not to mention, like, a 2-year-old's going to be a pretty good deer, like, for a lot of guys that work in 6 days a week, like, you see a 2-year-old, he might go over 100.
Yeah.
That's cool, dude.
It's fun to shoot stuff.
It is, dude.
Yeah.
It is. Anthony can attest to that, right?
Yeah.
Anthony shot.
Might go over 2 inches.
He's netting over 2 inches for sure.
Yeah, he is. He's got it. He's got a
sure.
non-typical point.
Yeah. Well, I think that one of the good points about that is, like, one of the things we try to do in the Map Scout Challenge is to hit a variety of habitats. And one of the cool things about Illinois and Tennessee and Kentucky, to an extent too, is that, like, anywhere you've got a little bit of terrain with trees and corn and beans, like, it's different, but the deer kind of doing the same stuff.
Deer, man.
Yeah.
They're gonna do deer
They're gonna
things.
sleep. They're gonna eat. They're gonna breed.
Yeah, and that's kind of my point. Is, like, you know, if you got a vacation, go to a state that like you can make things happen. Don't don't just stay around home unless you really feel like you need to. You know what I mean? So anyway, but you are gonna stay around home quite a bit this year because you got some pretty good hunting in your backyard, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Casey scouted that cornfield in your backyard this morning.
Right there.
Yeah.
What are the plans? Because I know you've got like literally 7 or 8 tags you're trying to buy right now.
So if I could lay out my perfect season and stay pretty quick, I would try and hunt early season on post and Kentucky on Fort Campbell. So I'd try and hunt probably the velvet season for Kentucky. I'd try and shoot something on Fort Campbell because it's a bonus tag. And then outside of that, if those things happen, then I would probably come up. I'd probably come up here, or somewhere in Illinois, and look at this. Maybe early season, try and focus on a pinch point or a food source, and then come November, if I can break away for even a weekend, I'm going to Kansas, and then just hopefully fill that tag and then get back here if I haven't already filled a tag.
So no Texas
Illinois.
this year.
No Texas.
That's
it's not super high on the priority list for me.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's far
That's
away, and there's just a lot of competition, And,
there is,
and,
man.
and I'll just tell you, like, it took me 8 years to shoot one mature buck.
Yeah.
So it's just it's a tough place,
Yeah.
and you guys know that. So.
Yeah, it is, man. It is, but there's also a little bit of fun in that. Which Jake doesn't know anything about that, but no, but it is it's fun to think about the day that you might have success hunting like a really tough property, because Casey and I have a few properties that we hunt that are much closer to home, that are very tough, and I can just he's shot a buck out there. He's got a shot at a buck. One of the first sits we sat out there, he shot a really good buck, jumped a string like crazy.
Oh.
But out of those few spots out there, it's not that great. But I just think about how many good times we've had out there and what it's going to be like when I actually do shoot something. So I like shooting deer. Like, I get juiced up every time anyway. So
No doubt.
I can only think about something that took 4 years for me to do. So, and I mean, honestly, like down there in Georgia, I think you're going to come across some similar type stuff. Smaller deer, big woods settings. I know, like, northern Georgia has some like massive WMAs, I believe. So maybe worth checking out. We've got a buddy, I think, doesn't Brian Grossman hunt some of that North Georgia stuff, I think? Yeah. So he may not want me saying that. And I don't know that that's North Georgia, but it just looks like it from what I've seen.
I feel like there's some other tags you can kind of grab and kind of do like what y'all do here too, like across the state line and go do some stuff.
Yeah.
I think Alabama was one of the ones they talked about would be pretty cool.
There's a ton of opportunities out there if you really, really dig, man, and hopefully just be polite, but ask, like forums, you don't just go asking for people's spots, but there are people that are willing to help you out there on forums and stuff like that. So check into all that. But guys, I had a great time today. I mean, I can't tell y'all how much this was like such a relief because I've been working really hard. We went on vacation and it was like just screaming kids the whole time. So anyway, it's been a blast hanging with you guys. I appreciate you coming up, Jake, and doing
hey, if
everything.
somebody wants to buy Exodus trail camera, how can they do that?
They can go to ExodusOutdoorGear.com. Be sure to head to our YouTube channel as well for the Booner Challenge here.
Yeah.
And
okay. Explain that a little bit more because so there's it's going to be a YouTube kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it'll be on our YouTube channel.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
a lot of the card pulls will be on there, obviously.
Gotcha.
And then we'll probably end up having some more information, spreadsheets and stuff we might share.
Yeah. What about your Instagram, Sean?
I don't even know my handle. Honestly, Anthony, look it up for me. I don't get on there that much. I don't.
That's all right,
I don't
dude.
post all
That's
that.
all right.
Often.
When you start working for us, you will.
It's S_O'Brien94.
And it's mostly pictures of what his biceps looks like. And
no, I got some with my wife, my dog, my son.
Yeah, look at those sheds. Are there sheds up there, dude?
Yeah, I found those.
How about that, man?
This year.
It's good stuff.
There's
and
a
then
couple
Anthony.
animals on there.
Anthony is actually a good follow on Instagram, even though he's not on it anymore, right? He has decided to delete his Instagram app, but he still has the Instagram profile, right?
I pulled it back up.
Okay, good.
Sean talked me into it because I just like seeing big bucks right now.
Yeah.
I like. There's not a day that goes by I don't walk into work and I don't look at him and say, "Man, I just want to hunt big bucks." It's just life. But I don't post a ton. I think I just posted like yesterday. But if you want to check me out, I think it's A1 _ imagery on Instagram.
Good stuff on there.
Yeah, it is. It's good quality photos. So Anthony and I, the listeners that have been around for a while know, but we used to shoot a bunch of stuff together. And when I say shoot, I'm talking imagery. And we tried to shoot some deer too.
Yeah.
But we mostly shot really high quality imagery, especially. Anthony's a super creative mind, and if you can't tell, just he's very well thought about a lot of different things. So good follow for sure. Exodus, of course, is going to be a good follow. And probably going to see KC and I on a cribs at some point.
Yeah.
I'm thinking after this year for sure.
When we get cribs.
Yeah. We're going to need some cribs, though, first is the issue.
I said that I didn't have. And y'all know this about me if you listen, but I haven't shot that many big deer, or really any big deer. I shot a couple nice Texas
Dude,
bucks.
that first one you shot, I think, is pretty good. I like that deer.
Wait, you talking about the first archery buck ever?
Hey,
He's cool.
we have to fit. So he has a video of the first archery buck he ever shot.
Freak. My mom filmed it. She was my
Dude,
person.
it was straight like Waddell on steroids,
Oh,
man.
it's awesome,
it was
dude.
awesome.
But what I was going to say is, like, I can be like the elk contribution. I got a couple elk heads and stuff.
We
Yeah.
haven't had much of that
Yeah.
up to this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
I feel better about myself.
That's good.
Thanks
I'm
for
glad you
bringing
do.
that up.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So
Tyler's got like 17 big buck heads. So
I believe that. Like, pretty excited to see the full work.
he's got a
arc there.
spread, man. It's
Hey,
cool.
he's got a 6-point buck.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm telling you, you like if you saw that deer out in the field from like 300 yards distance, you'd probably think that Joker was like 150s. Like,
Oh, yeah.
no doubt.
he's my dad measured him. I never measured him. But my dad thinks he would net Pope.
As a 6 point.
As a 6 point.
That's freaking cool,
he is
man.
He's
wide
huge, man.
and tall and like just has mass.
That's
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, he's huge. But
Is that Kansas or?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think we're going to try to line that all up maybe with the hog hunt next year. Jake,
are we? Did y'all talk about that?
Yeah, so Jake
Okay.
says as long as it's not during the Great American Outdoor Show, that they're in.
I was wondering
we're
what
gonna
y'all were
hold
talking
him
about.
to it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, I'm down.
And
Dude,
he said that variance. That means Chad is coming down too. So he already
well,
volunteered.
Chad
him.
is definitely going to run some pigs down.
Oh, yes.
You know that dude's fast.
He's going to rip
man.
him apart with his bare hands.
That's gonna be some great content.
Chokehold. Kill him with his bicep, man. Anyway, I fully expect some Exodus T-shirts next time you show up. For
sure.
No,
For
I'm
sure.
just kidding, man.
Not
You
the
don't
ones
have
with the holes. How did you get a hole in the back here like that?
I've worn this a lot, and I was like, we're gonna go burning through timber, so it's like, I'll wear the crappy shirt.
Yeah.
So this is been seeing many acres.
That's
Yeah.
not what it is. Is that
That's
like a
good.
fence? Oh, I bet you were going underneath the fence.
I
and they
bet
got
you-
it. Cross some fences. I knew that.
Oh,
Illinois
yeah.
boys, dadgummit.
Yeah, dude, they do some illegal stuff around here, man. For
sure.
Well, appreciate you guys listening, and I appreciate you guys being here and doing this thing with us. Thanks for the ride around the tri-state area here.
Thanks for the deer summer sausage for
Yeah,
lunch
that was
there, O'Brien.
fantastic.
Dude,
Yep.
that stuff was great.
and then the hospitality as
It's
well.
been fun, guys.
Yeah, it's been
a lot of
awesome. So remember, this is your element.
Living it.
Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay? Every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Arts Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.